everybody. Welcome to Binge Battle. My name is Mark Ellis. I am the host of this show where you, the viewer, get to determine who is the winner of each round and thus the ultimate prize champion of Binge Battle. Today is all about Breaking Bad, the show that everybody fell in love with, this little show on AMC that nobody really knew what the hell was going on. Is that the dad from Malcolm in the Middle? What is this show? And then all of a sudden it took off like wildfire. And by the end of the show, everybody in the world, it seemed, was hooked on every twist and turn that this show took. So the way that you determine your vote here is you're going to be clicking that like or that love button a lot. You're also going to be commenting in Facebook Live. So without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panelists that you will be commenting about and voting for. On my right, left, directions are very hard right now, is Roxy Striar. You know her from Screen Junkies, from Collider. You also know her from her own YouTube channel and her daily show, Live at the Roxy. How you doing, Rox?
I'm my own hype woman right now. Woo, 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 woo. Thanks, Mark. I'm excited. Breaking Bad is one of the best shows of all time, and being able to argue it, the fact that it's still relevant today, years and years later, is so crazy. But it is one of the greatest. So I'm excited to be a winner today and to talk some Breaking Bad.
Already declaring herself a winner. And Lon, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like Roxy's setup is very intimidating. I feel like I just got called into an office and I may not walk out of it with my gig. How do you feel?
Yeah, it sort of seems like she should be like ranting about the news almost from this setup. Like she's got a John Oliver takedown about our COVID-19 response or something. Like it's much more professional setup than like me hanging in my living room.
Well, your living room does have an added bonus in that there might be an appearance from Lon's lovable dog, Taco. Lon, let me start with you, and then I get to Rox. There's Taco. Hey, Taco.
There he is.
Made it. Lon, when did you first come about Breaking Bad? Did you start right at the beginning, or did you have to catch up and binge it until you were ready? No,
I did not. I was not on board for Breaking Bad at first. It kind of felt, you know what it sort of felt like at first when I saw like the trailers were, it felt like one of those like USA Network dad shows. Like, oh, dads are going to love this. It's like the most badass guy in the world is a 50-year-old high school teacher. Like, it's such a weird, like Charles Bronson suburban dad fantasy that I kind of avoided it until season 2. And that's when all the reviews were like, hey, this show's pretty great. And like, the acting is really good and it's going in some interesting directions. So that's when I went back and like caught up. And then I got totally sucked in immediately.
Roxy, I think that I came about like season 3 or 4. I think I was pretty late into the game. And then I binged during a summer or fall and caught up in time for season 4 and season 5. When did you catch on to Breaking Bad?
I'm very embarrassed to admit this, but I watched Breaking Bad at the very start and then I stopped. I watched it when it was on live and I stopped a few episodes in and was like, I don't know. And then the reviews started coming out and it wasn't until season 3 that I was like, wait, people are raving about this show. Maybe I should go back and give it another shot. And I did. And I don't know whether I was in a bad state of mind or what. I will say the first season is a little slower. And so maybe it was just taking a little bit more, but then I binged through so quickly. So starting season 3 was when I was with the people.
And right now is probably the best time to rewatch and revisit your favorite characters from Breaking Bad. I want to remind everybody that RottenTomatoes.com right now has pretty much an essential guide called Binge Central, which is your hub for all things that you can binge, whether it's a movie or a TV show that you want to stream. It's got all the different networks that you can check all of your favorite content out on. They have so many great lists. It's like I saw best sports movies. I was going through best comedies this morning. They have like the 150 best movies on Amazon, what's on Hulu, of course, all the Netflix shows you should be checking out right now. So go to RottenTomatoes.com and check out Binge Central as soon as we're done here. But I want you to stay around because we need your active participation throughout the duration of Binge Battle because, like I said before, the audience is going to be determining who wins each round and thus who wins the Binge Battle here today. Vote with your fingers. Click like if you think Roxy made a better argument during a particular round or you want to vote for her overall. Click love because we all love Lon Harris if you think Lon did the better job in a particular round or overall. You can take your like back, give it a love, take the love back, give it a like. I don't care how you do it. You live your life, but I also want everybody to comment. So while we're having our debate, you have the raging debate in the comment section as well. This first question is going to be a great one to start off on because it's very simple. Is it Team Walt or is it Team Jesse? So, Roxy Striar, I'm going to give you the kickoff. For a minute, is it Team Walt or is it Team Jesse, and why?
To me, this is maybe the most obvious question of all of Breaking Bad. I don't know how you watch this show and take away anything other than being Team Jesse. Jesse has the most incredible character arc, but he also has a really tough past. You know, he has been thrown out of his home. He comes from less education, and he's in a completely different of social class than Walt is. And I understand that Walt made decisions for his family at first, which we find out is not really why he made all of his decisions later on. But Jesse felt like that was his only option in life. And he had some really bad mentorship. And by the end of things, he's the one who really wanted to get out. He wanted to change his life. We know he's capable of love. We see it many times throughout the series. And when they have to make the hard decisions, Jesse is the one who's always advocating for saving as many people as possible. He tries to save especially the children. He doesn't want them as part of this war with drugs, on drugs. And I think that he's the better human being, but also the one that you can really get behind. You might like Walt's character better, but whose team do you really want to be on? Jesse Pinkman's.
Okay, very good opening salvo there by Roxy Striar. So, Lon Harris, you're in a tough position because I already see a lot of the chat room agreeing with Roxy. So now you're on Team Walt.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question really comes down to less like who's the better guy. I mean, they're not real guys. It's not like a who do I want to like be my dad. And I think when you come down to them as characters and how they function in the show, Walt's the active character. He's the one, he's got a goal. He's got ambition. He's always got a plan. He's the one that's getting them out of all of these scrapes. Jesse's fundamentally reactive. Like, sure, when you get down to it, when the psychopath is holding the gun at somebody else's head, then yeah, Jesse's conscience kicks in. Don't do it, man. No, come on, don't kill him. But he's never taking active steps to prevent those things from happening. He's just living in the moment, realizing he's gotten in too deep at the last moment, and then trying to veer off course. Like, that's not really the kind of guy that you can get behind as a viewer. Whereas Walt has all of this direction. There's like, he's making, we recognize that he's making immoral, bad choices that make him a bad sort of fellow, but also as a viewer, it would be lying to say that you're not being pulled through by Walt's journey and that you're not on some level pulling for him to like get out of these increasingly dire scrapes. So it's
interesting because, Lon, I'm going to stick with you, and then I'm going to give the last word to Roxy here because it's Team Walt or Team Jesse. So I understand your point that you don't want necessarily either person to be your dad. It's who's the more interesting character. But did you actually find yourself rooting for Walt over Jesse?
Well, I mean, it shifts over the course of the show. Like, by the very end, it's sort of undeniable that I think the writing staff and the producers are like, look, we're not saying you should be Walter White. He's a bad fellow. But up until then, I mean, until the last few episodes, Walt's your way into this story. He's the guy who's pulling you through, and he's the guy that fundamentally the audience relates to, not the teen junkie that he pulls along on his schemes. He's the hero. He's the protagonist, or the anti-hero, as it were. We're seeing the world through his perspective and following him on this journey. That's the guy whose team we're on. Jesse's there. I mean, Jesse's present to sort of be the voice of the world's conscience that Walt largely ignores.
All right. This is really getting heated in the comment section, too, because I'm seeing Eileen Rivera making a great point against Team Walt, saying that Walt killed all of Jesse's girlfriends. Matt Perez also agreeing with Roxy Striar, saying that she is Team Jesse. So, Roxy, I'm going to give the last word to you in this first round. Were you just rooting for Jesse, or did you actually think he was the more interesting character?
I think the answer to that is both, Mark. I'm rooting for Jesse because he is somebody who's troubled. He's a drug addict, and he's trying. Every day he is waking up and trying to be better. He goes to rehab. He's fighting his demons, and we all have demons. When it comes to Walt, Walt could have solved all of this by dropping his pride and taking money from his ex-roommate, ex-college roommate, ex-girlfriend. So if he had just done that, he would have been perfectly fine. But yeah, he does watch everybody die, and he does have a hand in killing all of Jesse's girlfriends. And not only that, but just to make sure that he solidifies himself as the true villain of this show, he watched Jane die and then years later on the show decided to tell Jesse that he did that. Why not just let it be? Why do you have to say, not only am I okay with what I did, but I need you to know that's what I did because I liked it.
It's vindictive. He feels at that point that Jesse was going to turn him over to the cops. But on the point of Walt killing Jesse's girlfriends, Walt really doesn't have that much to do with the death of Andrea. That is the white supremacists who have kidnapped Jesse, and they're trying to get him to stay alive.
And how did the white supremacists come involved into the picture?
Well, I mean, but Jesse was there too. Like, that's kind of my point. Like, Jesse's not innocent of any of this stuff. He's right there. He just at the last minute decides, oh wait, this isn't what I wanted. And that, I don't see that as a guy I sort of sympathize with. Also, as far as Jane goes, Jesse's easily as much at fault. He's the one that got her back into doing heroin. He's laying right there. It's just that he's on heroin and he can't save her. So Walt, not totally clean of that one, but it's a shared.
Walt literally tries to poison children and doesn't care if they live or die.
Oh,
that's legitimately something that happens. He doesn't care if little kids die. He is willing to poison them to go with his war.
Smith does point out that Walt saved Jesse's life. So if you're team one or team the other, there is one that saved the other one's life. But I think you could make the argument that they saved each other's lives multiple times, but they also got each other into tougher predicaments with themselves and their families multiple times. So there's all sorts of great chatter right now in the comment section. I can barely keep up with it. But Anthony Alicia makes a great point. He says, Team Hank, ? That would have been a good argument for maybe next binge battle when we revisit this Breaking Bad one. Lucy is saying that Roxy's got some great points. Kim says Jesse took advantage of the situation. So thank you all for your chatter. And this is only the first round. You're voting with your likes, with your loves, and with your comments as well. And I can finally render a verdict.
Yeah.
As we all know from our massive golf fandom background, now that you have the first point, you have the honor of going first in the next round. And that next round is going to be all about, bring it on, everybody, the best supporting character. Who was the supporting character MVP? Maybe Anthony in the comment section gets his wish of Team Hank. Juan, minute goes to you. Best supporting character and why?
Anthony gets his wish. I'm going Team Hank on this one. Hank Schrader is maybe the most complicated character from the entire world of Breaking Bad. He's got a lot of layers. When he's first introduced, he's, the usual kind of like aggressive, in-your-face, thuggy kind of cop. He gets off on authority. He loves being a DEA agent. He's riding all of his colleagues. He's like toxic masculinity, the character. But over the course of the show, we keep opening him up, seeing more vulnerability, figuring out more of what makes him tick, learning more about his marriage with Marie and his relationship with the whites and with his colleagues. And it really is, especially watching him go through, panic disorder and all of his sort of mental health issues. I really feel like Breaking Bad was kind of prescient in this. It's a lot of conversations we're having right now that Breaking Bad was already talking about a decade ago with the character of Hank going through all this, both in his physical and his mental rehabilitation. I really love the character, and I think it's so powerful in Ozymandias towards the end when he finally dies. It's maybe the most impactful death from all of Breaking Bad. And I feel like that's because we've invested so much and we've become so close to that character.
I love that Hank, it's one of my favorite gags in the show, Roxy, is that Hank, like most men, did his best thinking on the toilet, and that's when he started really piecing things together. However, as soon as I announced the premise for round number 2 and what that subject was, the chat room lit up saying Saul. So Juan's taking Hank. Roxy, who are you fighting for?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. Total annihilation right now, because I want you guys to legitimately think about the question, the phrasing of the question. Supporting character MVP. Who is the most valuable player? Now, Lon and I just previously fought Team Walt or Team Jesse, but the point being, you are team Walt and Jesse. You are rooting for Walt and Jesse. So who is the most valuable supporting character in their journey? Is it Hank, the person who's coming after them the entire time? No, he's actually the least valuable person in their journey. He is trying to get them arrested or killed. He has no value to what we are trying to do, which is get money for Walt's family and cook freaking meth. So who is the most valuable player? Yes, of course, I am talking about the man himself, Saul Goodman. Now, why is Saul the most valuable player? Because he is able to get them out of trouble when nobody else is. In fact, when they think about killing him, his argument for why he should live, why he should be able to help them is so much stronger that they keep him. And of course, he is the most valuable player because as a TV watcher, what do you want? You want more Breaking Bad. What's better than having your own spin-off show? He's the one they picked to have a spin-off show because he is the most valuable player. He gets us out of trouble time and time again, and he saves many lives along the way. Hank is actually the LVP, the least valuable player.
Wow, Alon, Roxy, not only championing someone that you did not pick, she went with Saul Goodman. She is throwing a lot of shade at your boy Hank. What do you have to say for yourself?
It's a bizarre semantic argument to be who's the most valuable supporting character to another character. And I mean, I don't even think that holds together anyway. If you think about, since they fell in with Saul Goodman in season 2, things get much, much worse every season. I mean, he's not guiding them on the true path. He's guiding them to, becoming targets of Gus Fring, to becoming targets of the cartel, to becoming, it's just more and more, and then to becoming a target of him, and then he's trying to kill them for almost the entirety of season 4. So I think it's an odd way to look at it. But even if you sort of put that to the side, I mean, I think Saul Goodman as a character is comic relief really in Breaking Bad. I mean, that's why he's sort of there in that show. He's like the over-the-top sleazebag lawyer. He didn't really come alive as a character in his own right until Better Call Saul, which really digs into the backstory. And he doesn't really have much of an inner life in Breaking Bad. He's a plot device, and he throws out a couple zingers, and then he gets out of the way.
Ooh.
Right. Hank kind of did move the action along because he's forcing our characters into different corners, and we'll see how they get out of them. Do you agree with Lon that Saul was just comic relief, and then he wasn't really interesting until he got his own show?
Absolutely not. It's the most offensive thing that anybody's ever said to Saul in their life. And he's been said, some offensive things have been said to him before. We don't want a criminal lawyer. We want a criminal lawyer. And that is what we got with Saul. He launders their money. He's an all-around fixer. Yes, things did get worse, but not because of him. When you're cooking meth, sometimes things get worse as the years go on. That's just the way it is. He saved their lives. And Hank was very annoying. Let's not forget, he was this macho man who used to make fun of Walt and was kind of a D. Nobody really liked Hank's character at first. And yes, he did grow as the show went on, but ultimately he was a macho alpha. Look at me. I'm this dude. And he was kind of a jerk and annoying to watch for many years. Saul was the comic relief, absolutely, but he was so much more than that. And that's why they felt the confidence in giving him a spin-off show.
Okay, this is such a fun argument to watch play out in the comment section because I'm seeing a lot of people vote for either Lon or for Roxy, and I want everybody who hasn't yet to chime in. Click like if you're going with Roxy, click love if you're going with Lon. But I'm also seeing a lot of characters that the fans wish you had talked about. So I'm seeing a lot of love for Mike in the comments, and I'm seeing a lot of love for Gus Fring in the comments.
Badger. How has Badger not come up?
Badger was one, and then Anthony said that the supporting character MVP was, of course, Meth. So I want to read a couple of these because they're making some great points. Jimmy says, if you didn't have Hank, you wouldn't have Breaking Bad. Saul is comedic relief at best. But then Amarta comes back and says, Hank finds out Walt is Heisenberg, so that's like a Sherlock moment. People are loving Hank, but then you also have Saul. And Saul is getting a lot of support. Siddharth actually said that Roxy's argument made me change my answer to Saul. And Lucy is as well saying that Roxy won that one. So it's a very close race here as we get in our final poll results. And We're getting all the comments. I am now able to declare. I feel like I'm doing like a political show, like y'all are running for office, and I have to declare who won a state.
With 10% of counties reporting.
We have enough precincts are reporting in with their final numbers that Roxy Striar won the Best Supporting Character MVP debate. And so Saul versus Hank narrowly went to Saul, and we are tied at 1-1. Did you expect anything less when you have two great panelists and a show that people get as passionate about, as the comment section proves, like Breaking Bad? So now
I did it for you, Saul. I did it for you.
To your third round question, and that is, in Breaking Bad, what is the most shocking moment? Okay, so Roxy Striar, you have the honor after gaining that point in round 2. What is the most shocking moment in the lineage of Breaking Bad?
Such a great question, because there are so many shocking moments on this show. The show is a shocking show in general. But the moment that I'm picking is the moment that we find out that Gus's face gets ripped off, gets blown off, and he is dead. We have been working so hard to kill Gus in so many different ways. We didn't know if he was going to die, when he was going to die, how he was going to die. And there were so many other setups, like them trying to do the bomb in the hospital. And every time they tried to kill Gus, he just outsmarted them. So we started to think as fans it was never going to happen. But literally throughout this entire scene, in which we know there's some funny business going on, we don't know the exact plan, but we know that Hector is working with Walt and that they've discussed something. You still don't think he dies, because he walks out of the room, and the way this is shot in profile, you believe somehow, some way, that Gus was able to make it out of this explosion and live. And it's not until the final seconds of his life that we know, because we pan over and you see that half of his face is completely gone. He's straightening his tie. He's there. Everything's all good. And then we see that, and he tips on over. It was the most shocking reveal, because we didn't know how, if, when, and then not until the final second did we believe it actually happened.
Yeah, depressing for anybody like me who tries to look good in a suit and still doesn't look as good as Gus Fring with half a face in his suit as I do with both of the sides of my face. You already have people agreeing with you, Roxy. Gerardo Vindiola says Gus Fring's murder is one of the top moments in Breaking Bad. So, Lon, the deck has been stacked against you. It's time to stem the tide with your argument. What do you got?
Well, I mean, it's a great moment. It's a payoff moment. And I think that's kind of my issue with it, as the answer to this question, is that it's a payoff moment. We've been building up to it, especially in that episode. It's the season 4 finale. The entire episode, I mean, it might as well be called Kill Gus. Like, that's what the mission is. That's what Walter's working towards. The entire episode leads you right up to that moment. So, yeah, when we see his face, like, it's really grisly. They worked really hard on the special effect. It looks great. Esposito plays it beautifully. It's a really fun, it's a little cartoonish, but I'm willing to forgive them that. It's a really fun moment, but I don't know if it's the most shocking, because it doesn't feel out of left field. So many of the great, shocking Breaking Bad moments feel completely out of left field. Like one that I thought of that I didn't pick, Dead Freight from the final season, is where Todd just shoots the little boy on the tricycle out of nowhere, because you don't see that coming. The boy's seen them. You're like, we're going to have an episode where we figure out what to do with this kid who just saw, and then Todd just point blank shoots him. So I picked another moment that I think is akin to that, but even earlier in the show, it's a more pivotal moment, is when Walt watches Jane choke to death on her own vomit. I mean, it's shocking because it's so visceral, it's so brutal. Usually a TV show would not show you the chunks coming out of her mouth and her vibrating and literally watching her die. We watch her along with Walt. It's pretty horrifyingly done. It's a really impactful scene, but it's also important to where it happens in Walt's journey. This is the first time where he's really, this is not self-defense. This is not a guy is going to kill you unless you kill him. That's the kind of stuff we've seen Walt do up until this point. This is where he breaks from that, and it becomes preventative medicine. It becomes, I'm going to kill this person before they have a chance to mess with my empire building. And that's a really key moment for him, at a moment that I don't think the audience was necessarily prepared for partway through the second season of the show. So that's why I'm picking that moment.
All right, so the die's been cast for both competitors here in round number 3. Remember, if you agree with Roxy's argument more, then click like. If you agree with Lon, click love and comment and let us know your favorite moments. I got a great one from John Lenz, who says that him and his wife actually visited a bunch of the locations in Breaking Bad. And so maybe that's going to be like a thing to do for decades to come, is go see the house, maybe the minivan's still there, go see all these different locations where some of these iconic moments happen. For me, I would have to say it's when you see Danny Trejo's head on the turtle slowly going by. That's a pretty shocking moment. So,
and then it explodes. I mean, just a head on a tortoise would be shocking enough, but then it blows up.
I think Hank would agree with you. That was the most shocking moment for him as well.
It was definitely his most shocking moment in his life. Lon, give me a little bit more support as to why your moment is more shocking versus just the shocking reveal of seeing Gus Fring's half face.
I mean, I think that we all assume that Walt's going to do something. It may not be like call an ambulance, like the right thing, but I don't think anybody expects leading into that scene and how much lead up we've been doing for Jesse's relationship with this new woman, Jane. We spent so much of the season building up who she is as a person and their dynamic together in this romance. And then we've already had Walt break into that apartment previously. So I don't think anybody expects that he's just going to stand there and watch her die. And again, that we're going to watch the whole thing play out in real time right along with him, watch a major character choke to death and expire, and then to just leave her there also. It's really disgusting, in addition to being a very shocking moment. And it's not something that there's an episode of lead up to. It's not like, we got to get rid of Jane. Like, he seems to not be okay with Jane. He just hung out with her dad. Like, it doesn't seem like the sort of thing he's preparing to do.
Yeah, Roxy, this is one of those situations where I'm glad I just get to referee on. I don't actually have to make the final gavel, because this is a really tough call. Y'all picked 2 great shocking moments. So can you give me a little bit against what you heard from Lon's argument?
Here's the thing. We already watched Walt choke somebody to death. We already watched him use something to strangle somebody. So watching him watch somebody choke to death is not that shocking. What's more shocking is when he actually decides to do that. And I think that, yes, I can't argue that moment wasn't incredibly impactful. I watched that scene and you want to cry because it's so sad, but you know what's coming from the second he walks in. The second we know that Walt sees, you know in your stomach, you know in your gut that he's not going to save her. And that's what made it not so shocking, because we already knew. We already knew that's who Walt was, and it was really sad and it was disturbing, but it was not surprising. When it comes to Gus, it was surprising because we had no idea. He had outsmarted us so many times. We had no idea if we were ever going to be able to kill this guy, or how we were going to do it, or if he was going to get to us first. And literally till the final second, we see him fixing his tie. He's all good. He's Superman. He made it out of this. How'd he do it? We don't know, but you believe he did, because we've seen him. He's a cat with 9 lives. We've seen him do it 1,000 times. And so it was much more surprising of a death and much more surprising of a moment.
This is 2 great answers, and I'm getting a lot of backup from the chat room here. Teresa Monroe pretty much did my job for me. She's listed a bunch of great moments: the tub falling through the ceiling, the kid shooting combo, Hank pinning a creep brother against the car, and the guy jumping out of bed with leg stumps. These are all great, and I'm seeing a little bit of buyer's remorse in the chat room too, because you all brought up Todd, and so now a lot of people wish that they had taken Todd as their supporting character MVP. So it's too late to go back to round 2. We're going to focus on
I do
round
love
3.
Todd.
Final word goes to you, Lon.
I was going to say, if Todd was in more of the show, I would have picked Todd. It's just that he only shows up in season 5.
Also, he's the worst.
Lon, about 10, 15 seconds to close up shop here in argument 3. Then I'll go over to Roxy for the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all, like, sure, if you were already in a place where it's like, I hate Walt, he's the worst guy in the world, of course he's going to let this woman die, then yeah, I guess it's not shocking. But I was not there yet at this point in the show. Also, you're mentioning him choking Crazy 8 to death. Well, but that's me or you. He knows Crazy 8's going to just kill him if he lets him go. He's got the broken part of the plate. That's the whole bit with the plate, is that he didn't want to kill Crazy 8. He has to, and he doesn't have to kill Jane. She's just his friend's girlfriend.
He kind of does have to. He kind of does have to kill her because here's the thing. She's already blackmailed him. She's already threatened him. And he's actually not even killing her. He's just not saving her. Do I think he would have poisoned her necessarily? Maybe not for a couple more seasons. But watch her die. It was something easy that he could do. And again, we all saw that coming the second he walked in the room. We knew what the decision he was going to make. There was no question about it because she had been coming at him and her dad had been coming at him. I would say that the plane crash was more surprising than her actual death because that we didn't see coming.
All right. This has been mind blowing, and it kind of, I don't know about how everybody out there watching it feels. We have almost 3,000 people watching us live just on Facebook. This really makes me want to revisit Breaking Bad even more so than I already did, because there's just so many moments that you kind of remember and you're like, oh yeah, that meant this, and then that was from that. And so there's so many different pieces to tie together here. And thinking about this round, both were fantastically surprising and shocking moments, but it does seem like the bulk of the likes, I'm not just saying like because that's how you vote for Roxy, supposed to love, which is how you vote for Juan. It seems like most people are saying that the Gus Fring, just the reveal, just the visceral look of somebody with half a face like Two-Face in The Dark Knight, that alone was the more shocking moment, even though Walt watching somebody choke to death is no day at the park. So in a very narrow margin, Roxy Striar takes a 2-1 lead over Lon/Taco. So Lon Harris and his beloved trusty steed Taco now have to get the last point in order to force a sudden death bonus question. So Roxy, I know you got to be feeling good going into the final round right now. Lon, do you think you have what it takes to tie the leader?
Sure.
Like that confidence. Right? Woo.
Are we
she's
short on time?
She's like, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna kill him. So it's like, well, I'll meet that with opposing energy. Like, well, the best person will win.
You know what, Lon? I don't appreciate your maturity.
It's yin and yang, give and take.
Just one-word answers at this point. For your final round,
yes-anding you.
Your question is going to be Breaking Bad has so many memorable episodes, but we need one for the all-time best episode. Lon, because you're trailing, I'm going to give you the option. Do you want to argue first, or would you rather hear Roxy's argument against you?
I'll go first.
Hit me.
All right, so we're sort of flipping the last round because I picked as the best episode ever, Face Off, the season 4 finale, which features Gus Fring's face being ripped off. But I'll tell you why I think it's a great episode. It's not just about the face, I'm going to take his face off. To quote one of my favorite Nicolas Cage movies, it's a great episode overall, and it really represents a lot of what I think people love about Breaking Bad. I love about Breaking Bad. It's relentless. I mean, it's a race against the clock. It's Gus versus Walt. It's like this standoff episode, cat and mouse episode with lots of twists and turns and unexpected turnabouts and a lot of strategizing. And I think that's one of the most fun elements of Breaking Bad is watching all of these criminals navigate around one another. But it's also a very funny episode. Walt's in a crazed, maniacal, desperate state the whole time. He's breaking into Saul's office. He's carrying a bomb around with him into a hospital. You get that great back and forth with him and Jesse at the hospital. Like, did you bring the bomb here? It's like, what, am I supposed to leave it somewhere for someone to find? So, I mean, I think it brings together all of these different elements that are so great about Breaking Bad into one package. And I mean, it's very tempting to pick stuff from like the end of the show when everything's kind of paying off. But those episodes get very grim. And what I love about 3 and 4 is that it's maintained the sort of lighter aesthetic while also being incredibly intense.
All right, it's Lon Harris throwing everything he has at Roxy Striar, trying to get the tie here. We apologize if some of our folks had an audio glitch there for a minute, but we're back now and everybody can hear the arguments just fine. So Roxy, the table has been set. What's the best episode in the history of Breaking Bad?
Lon, without a doubt, you just named a top 10 episode for sure. I gotta say, it is a great episode, but it is not the greatest episode. The greatest episode, of course, is Ozymandias. This is an episode in which some of the biggest moments happen in the entire season, and it's not just one moment. We also have a variety of different situations going on where we've got action, we've got clever dialogue. Of course, this is the episode in which we lose Hank, which was probably the most crushing blow of the entire season, but the way he goes out is the most incredible scene. He really delivers in that moment. And even if prior to that you have any kind of feelings about Hank, you're gutted, because the way that we lose him is so devastating. And then when he says, you're the smartest guy, but you couldn't see he made up his mind 10 minutes ago. Oh, it wrenches at me every time. This is also when Walt becomes he's very far gone here. He lets them say that, okay, you can kill Jesse. He gives the go to kill Jesse. Instead, they end up kidnapping him, which leads to some of the most gruesome stuff that we have seen on this show, and that's saying something. We also have the iconic knife fight with Skylar and Walt, and when she finally puts her foot down, this is the moment. I know that Skylar gets a bad rap on the show, but this is the moment that Skylar stands up and says, I'm not doing this anymore. We are not running with you. I am taking care of my family. We also have the kidnapping of the baby, which we don't know. Talk about shocking. We don't know what Walt's going to do because we don't trust him anymore. What's he going to do with this child? Is he going to let the kid go back with the mom? And then there's the incredible phone call in which he does clear Skylar's name. And we're questioning, what is this call about? What is happening? Why is he calling her the B word all of a sudden? This doesn't sound like him. And he's exonerating her. There's so many twists and turns. And this is the episode that makes people cry. This is the episode he reveals that he killed Jane. This is the episode that you hate Walter White more than any other episode of the show. And it's action-packed and perfect episode of television.
Both are mentioned in the top 10, probably the top 5 or top 3 all-time Breaking Bad. My favorite comment so far is from Ivan Bracola, who just says bzz, bzz, as in the fly, but now the fly is no longer in the running.
I almost picked that, Mark.
I do love that one too. It's very clever.
I love it. It's a top 10 also. I love that episode.
And I think that was the episode where we're watching. We're like, hey, this Ryan Johnson guy should make more movies. So
somebody give him a Star Wars.
We have Roxy. Again, vote with your heart, with the love. If you think Lon won this round, vote with the like, with the thumbs up. If you think Roxy won, and comment with who you want or who your favorite stars or episode or supporting MVPs, any of it, right now in the comment section. Lon Harris, the die goes back to you for 30 seconds and a rebuttal for your life.
Yeah, I think we basically just heard it like that. That is like Ozymandias is a great episode, but it's wrenching. Just like Roxy said, it makes you hate the character that you've come to enjoy watching. It's a bunch of people doing the exact face we saw Marie Schrader play in that clip. Like, oh, my whole life is over. Like it's that, but and that's great. And you need to end the story there. But that's not what high Breaking Bad is to me. Like that's not what the show is. It's about Breaking Bad. It's about Walt going from being this everyman to his downfall. And by the time we get to Ozymandias, downfall complete. He's Tony Montana, and we're watching him get his comeuppance. And I'm not saying it's not satisfying and it's not a good cap to the story. I mean, it's the payoff for the setup that we've been watching the whole time, but the setup and the journey is a lot of the fun. And watching Walt when he's still navigating this world and finding his way in it is a lot more fun and represents more of the heart of what Breaking Bad is as a show to me than the very dramatic, very somber, let's tie all these pieces together and show Walt finally getting his episodes.
All right, Rox, 30 seconds to win over the chat room.
Lon, yours is a gutting episode too, because we know what Walt is capable of now. We know he's capable of killing a child, and that is something that he is not above. I think that the best part of it is the actual filmmaking of Ozymandias, and the juxtaposition of Marie not knowing what has happened, and the beautiful filmmaking of her saying that he has Walt dead to rights, he's got him in cuffs, everything's done, and we already know as an audience that Hank is never coming home. and she does not know that. That being the through line of the episode is so such genius filmmaking, because usually they wouldn't tell the story like that. We would be suspended and we wouldn't know either. We would be in the Marie position. But the fact that they cued us in on it so early on in the episode, it doesn't end with Hank dying. It starts with that 10 minutes in. Brilliant decision, and unlike anything we see on TV today.
I have so many episode recommendations now to fill my weekend with. Veggie has a good one. Says the favorite episode for them is the Don Eladio shootout. Gerardo saying it's a tough call. I agree with you, Gerardo. This is a really tough one that comes down to the wire. And Mitchell did look. I don't know if you want to cry foul play, but Mitchell did say in the chat room that people should be voting for Lon simply because they want to see another round. So we are going to go to the judges. How many likes? How many loves? How many
support
comments?
it. I'm for it.
What a ridiculous comment.
Roxy Striar is defeating Lon Harris. No more, because Lon Harris has won with his episode Face Off. I would say this is a mild upset of the Ozymandias episode. It is 2-2. And now we enter sudden death. It's going to work a lot like a normal round. You vote with your like, with your heart, and in the comments section for the winner of the Breaking Bad challenge here today on Binge Battle. Before we get into the final tiebreaker, sudden death round, I want to give a big shout out to Fandango Now. Thank you so much for supplying everybody with the promo codes for the trivia contest winners during our pre-show. That's right. We get to do this thing again. Make sure you're here on time because we do some trivia. It's not too hard to answer, and you might get a Fandango Now promo code. All right, with all that out of the way, Lon Harris, Roxy Striar, you all have been great participants so far. Your tiebreaker question is, would you eat the food at Los Pollos Hermanos? No, sorry, that's just my personal.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
The actual question is, Walt redeemable? Okay, so Lon, I'm going to put you back in the hot seat because you just tied Roxy to force overtime. So Lon, in a minute or less, why is Walt redeemable or is he not?
I don't know. I don't know what we pre-picked for as the answers for this, so I don't want to mess up Roxy.
You're good. I just do it. You got this.
Okay, because okay. So
I'll crush you either way.
Wow, love that confidence. I'm going to say no. I don't think Walt ultimately is redeemable by the time you get to the end of Breaking Bad. I think that we're with him for a while. I think that there's a while that you can excuse his behavior, but I think after a while, writers and the filmmakers kind of tip their hat that there was always more to this than the cancer, the family. This was pride. And it goes right back. If you rewatch the pilot, it's really striking. There's a moment in the pilot where he's working at the car wash, and Bogdan, the guy who owns the car wash, is making him actually clean people's cars. He sees himself as the cashier. He's above it all. But Bogdan's like, a guy called in sick. You got to go out there and watch the cars yourself. And he feels humiliated, especially when one of his crummy students shows up and kind of bullies and makes fun of him for being here watching other people's cars. And it's that moment is really the whole show in a nutshell. Walt feels like less of a man. He feels like he doesn't provide for his family. People don't respect him. He got cheated out of that company he was going to start with his college friends, and they made all this money and he didn't. And he's just this lowly guy who's scraping along. And that's really what this journey is about. And then that's sort of capped off in season 5 when he tells Skyler he's in the empire business. Like, it's just like he says in the finale too, where he was always doing this for himself. It was always purely greed and ego motivated. And he was using the cancer as an excuse to kind of do this thing he already wanted to do. If you actually recall too, in the pilot, they're watching on TV about the bust that Hank and Steve Gomez made. And he's already, this is before he knows he has cancer. He's already asking like, oh, you can make that kind of money, huh? Like it's already in his mind. So I think knowing all that we come to know about Walt, I think this was always in him, and circumstances came together allowing him to finally go through with it. And I don't think that's a redeemable guy. Okay,
Lon redeeming his argument very astutely, Roxy Striar. Which side would you be on? Is Walt redeemable?
You know, I think this depends who you are as a person and how you look at people. Are murderers redeemable? Are drug dealers redeemable? And I am somebody who believes that everybody Everybody is, and there are things that you can do always. Otherwise, why do you believe that there is the ability to change? Why do you believe in humanity? If you don't think anybody can change or grow or redeem themselves, then what are any of us really doing here? So has Walt done some horrible things in his life? Absolutely. And I talked earlier about, for those reasons, I was Team Jesse. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when Walt was able and given the chance to redeem himself after he had removed himself from the situation and really thought about everything that happened, he came back and he saved Jesse's life. And he came back, and whether or not he did it for proudful reasons, whether or not the money and the drugs were about feeling like he had an empire, he came back and made sure that his children were taken care of, and he didn't have to do that. He made sure that they got the money that they so needed, and that was his goal in the first place. So he makes sure his family is taken care of, and he saves his partner's life. And I think that those two things made it so that we know he is redeemable. And you know what? He gave his life for that, and that is the ultimate thing that you can do. There is nothing more to be done, and I think that in the end of the day, he did redeem himself.
Sterling, not only argument from Roxy Striar, but Lon, I feel like I can become a better person. I think that I might start turning my life around after that inspirational speech.
I'm inspired.
Lon, I'm going to give you about 20 seconds. Then Roxy's going to have about 20 seconds to make your final argument. And then the audience, once again, is going to decide who our winner of today's binge battle is. Lon, go.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're talking about the general concept of can people be redeemed, well, what's the one thing we think of when you want to be redeemed? If you're a repentant murderer, if you're a repentant drug dealer, it's that word, repentant. You've got to be, I recognize what I have done, and I'm going to make amends to make it up. Walt doesn't really ever get there. He still thinks that he was fundamentally justified. It was fun. He was good at it. It was a thing he liked to do. That's my money. He's still very caught up in these ideas. It doesn't feel like a person who genuinely did the hard work of turning over a new leaf and has recognized the flaw in their ways. It feels like a guy who got caught and cornered, doesn't like his new life in a cabin in New Hampshire, is eager for a way out. And sure, he does the right. He tries to set things right for people before he goes, but it's out of guilt as much as a real feeling of duty or responsibility for justice. And I think that's really what would be required for a redemption storyline.
Okay, Roxy, you have the final word in binge battle.
Actions speak louder than words, and maybe he didn't verbalize out loud, I repent, what I have done has been horrible, but he shows that in his actions by coming back. He never needed to come back. He was in the clear. He could have lived out the rest of his life in a cabin, and he did not. He came back and he fought for his loved ones, which is how he started this journey. And maybe he went awry throughout the journey, but by the end of it, he really did accomplish the goals he set out to do, and they were pretty selfless goals. So I think that he lost himself along the way, as many of us do in life, but by the end, he found himself and he was able to redeem himself by ultimately succeeding in giving his loved ones what they needed.
Okay, if I'm a teacher, if I'm like Walter White, but instead of teaching chemistry, I'm teaching some sort of debate class or maybe English, y'all just gave A+ reports, okay? You clearly did your homework, you read the source material, you watched the show, and you both delivered eloquently. I'm looking at the chat, and it is very almost 50-50 here. Lucy Fitzgerald says she loves Roxy's argument. She's going with Roxy. Ivan says, ask yourself this. If Walt were to live, would Jesse ever want to see him again? Ivan kind of doubts it. One of my favorite premises is from Alexander James Hamilton, which if your name is Alexander Hamilton, no dueling anytime soon. Says, I'd love to see him in jail getting free cancer treatment and helping the DEA or something, but we never got that opportunity. And Edward Harrell has my favorite comment. Overtime, here we go. You are correct, Ed. And what a way to go out. Tied at 2-2. You voted with your thumbs up. You voted with your hearts. You voted with your comments. And in the end, the winner of the Breaking Bad binge battle is... No, there's no drum roll? Okay, I'll just announce it then. Roxy Striar has defeated Lon Harris. Roxy Striar is your champion. Roxy, do you want to rub it into Lon's face further?
Oh, no. Number one does not look back at number two to rub it in. I will be a gracious winner and say, Lon, it was a true honor, my friend, to beat the crap out of you. Thank you for playing.
Okay. Can we just put Lon in the winner's circle just so Lon can feel good about himself too? Let's make Lon a champion for a second.
Hey! Yeah, that's right. Suck it.
Ooh, that sounds like me. The Boston in me is rubbing off on you. Good, good.
Before we get out of here, just a quick Breaking Bad question, and this is not a debate, so I'm just curious. Do y'all have like a favorite? Like, if you were a senior in high school and you had to use a Breaking Bad quote to be your senior quote, what would you use? Do you have anything at the ready? I know I'm surprising y'all with this. I just wanted to see what you'd say.
One of my favorite quotes. I don't know how great it would be as a senior quote. I didn't know that was part of the premise going in, Mr. Ellis. But one of my favorite quotes in general is when it's the first meeting at Los Pollos Hermanos between Gus and Walt, and Walt is like, asking him like, why don't you want to work with me? I got the best product. Everybody loves the blue meth. And Gus, in his very dry, aloof manner, just says, "You are not a careful man." And it's such a fascinating way to look at it. And that really is a lot of the story is about Walt's just not able to be careful. He's passionate. He wants to get back at people. He wants to cut corners. He wants to be number one. And he's not willing to do what Gus is, which is to sit back, be very patient, bide his time, move the pieces around the board. And I think it's so great to consider it in light of Gus's journey too, where that becomes his downfall, is not being as careful once he gets so fed up with Jesse and Walt and everything that's happening.
I like that a lot. I think that actually works for a senior quote.
Yeah.
So Roxy, if I pick up your yearbook and I'm signing it, I say, "Hey, have a great summer. See you at the pool. XXOO." But then what senior quote am I going to see attributed to your name?
So I would amend one of their quotes, and so it would say, "Smoking marijuana, eating Cheetos, and masturbating do constitute plans in my book." So they do constitute as plans. That definitely is my senior quote. Thank you for asking, and I'm pretty sure that's actually what I wrote. So.
Okay,
before Breaking Bad was even out.
Yes, I actually came up with that line. They took it from my senior quote,
and then the Striar original.
Yeah.
Hey, look, if you wanted to know why she's the champion of Binge Battle, I think you just got your answer. So before we say goodbye here to the kids, I want to remind everybody out there watching right now, go to RottenTomatoes.com and check out Binge Central. That's your hub for all things binging right now. I know it's a tough time. I know you can't be around your friends and your family as much as you want to. You can't give anybody hugs, but hey, you can hang out with us in this virtual community that we have. So go check out Binge Central right now and investigate the new shows that you can watch, and then Zoom or Facebook Live or Instagram Live with your friends afterwards and have these kind of debates, because this is what we hope to inspire right now. It's more fun than anything else you can do currently. And until we can go outside again and be safe, check out all the cool content on RottenTomatoes.com. So, Lon and Roxy, as we say goodbye, I want to see what your binge picks are. For the folks that are going into the weekend looking for something to watch, Roxy, what are you steering them towards?
I am an absolute TV junkie, so I will say I'm watching far too much right now. But the things that I'm watching that you have to check out, Too Hot to Handle. Yo, this is the craziest thing I have ever seen. It is on Netflix, and the premise is they put a bunch of 20-something-year-old horny people on an island together and tell them that they will win more money if they don't sleep together. And these people are incapable of not sleeping together. It is phenomenal television. Must watch. I don't know if it's quite in the Breaking Bad genre of television, but it's a great one. But probably more similar to a Breaking Bad type thing. Peaky Blinders, I'm binging for the first time. I'm behind on this, I know, but holy crap, I can't believe this is a hidden gem still. This deserves to be up there with like Breaking Bad, The Sopranos. Peaky Blinders is so good. It's phenomenal television. A couple others that I'm doing. I'm a big Bachelor person now, so Listen to Your Heart. It's their new spinoff where you're falling in love with people who are fellow musicians, which is awesome. Just finished Ozark. Definitely check that out. The third season was phenomenal, as were the first two. And Sex Education. Just binged that. And Sex Education is hysterical. It's raunchy. It's weird. And certainly worth your time.
Roxy, I think it's fair to say you like TV. Is that
a TV fan? Yeah, I think you could say that. I'm a fan.
Those are all fantastic picks. Lon Harris, what do you got for and look, I know this is for everybody watching, but I'm kind of using y'all for my own personal devices as well, because I want something to watch besides NFL draft coverage.
Yes.
Sure. I have also seen some of Too Hot to Handle. How long do you figure they were making that show? Like 3 weeks? They're acting like they're being asked to not have sex for a decade.
I know.
It's crazy.
I know.
It's like a few weeks, guys. You'll be fine. It's ridiculous.
It's incredible.
Show.
I do think it was 4 weeks, Lon. I think that's what it was.
It's like a month. You'll be fine. It's
Wild.
Anyway, they're losing their minds. One thing I've been watching recently, I also really loved season 3 of Ozark. That kind of took a year to grow on me, but season 2 I thought was really strong, and then season 3 is the best yet. That show just keeps getting better and better. I also really enjoyed Devs, which was that FX show that was streaming on Hulu. It's from Alex Garland, the guy who did Annihilation and Ex Machina. Really trippy, head trip, crazy, metaphysical sci-fi, but still like good characters. Like it still has thriller elements, very watchable, and terrific performances there. I really enjoyed that one. And what else have I? Oh, and just one that I love that is just not watched enough that everybody should watch is Hannibal. I know that it seems like, oh, another Hannibal Lecter thing. I've seen the movies, whatever. It's a totally brilliant reimagining of the character. Mads Mikkelsen, I think, is the best ever Hannibal Lecter, and I just always recommend that show when people are looking for something new to watch.
Y'all have given me a full plate here. And so as we say goodbye, I want to encourage everybody out there to check out both Lon and Roxy and all their exploits on social media. On Twitter, you can follow Lon Harris at Lon, just LONS. It's a pretty nice score there with that handle. And then Roxy Striar. She got her name at Roxy Striar. So make sure that you follow both of them, become a fan as if you weren't already. And we appreciate y'all tuning in to this episode of Binge Battle. Huge thanks once again to Fandango Now for helping us get those trivia games going and getting the promo codes to you, the fans. So use those promo codes, use them wisely, maybe use them on something that Roxy or Lon recommended. 4, our incredible tech team behind the curtain that's helping make all this magic possible. The great team of both Fandango and Rotten Tomatoes. And of course, for Lon Harris and Roxy Striar, my name is Mark Ellis. And by my count, if you get money on Too Hot to Handle, that means that somebody owes me about $10-11 million by this point. So I'll do the math and we'll get back to you, and we'll see you all soon. Have a great day and have a great weekend, everyone.